We'll continue with our focus this morning on the transport sector here in South Africa as the country observes Transport Month, of course, now in October, raising awareness on the role of the sector in the country's economy and society. So some of the topics we'll discuss today include South Africa's demerit system under the administrative adjudication of road traffic offences, Transnet and Prasa, and potholes, just to mention a few. If you'd like to join this discussion, you may call us on 011-714-0677 or 011-714-0678. I'll repeat that number, 011-714-0678, as well as 011-714-0677. That's the number that's appearing on your screen now. Let's chat now to the transport spokesperson, who is Collen Msibi, and he joins us now via video link. Collen, great to chat to you once again. Good morning to you. Quite a wide-ranging discussion that we'll have this morning, of course, but I think I want to start with the demerit system. You know, just speaking to one of our producers here on the agenda, Rosalia, she reminded me that the demerit system it kicks in next year, does it?
Well, it kicks in on the 1st of December.
Oh, 1st of December. Okay, that sends chills. I don't think it's just going to send chills down my spine, but chills down. Do we have something to be concerned about? It sounds all so scary. It sounds like you're going to rip away my driver's license. I won't be able to drive any longer if I don't comply. Talk to us a bit about this.
Look, I think it's quite a good initiative and innovative way of dealing with issues of safety on our roads. We're trying, first of all, to decriminalize the issue of traffic infringements. As you would know, you used to get your traffic infringement, and therefore it is followed by warrant of arrest and all that. And then when you get to a roadblock, you're arrested and all that. So the ARTO is actually trying to get rid of that. So you don't have to, when you approach the roadblock, you don't have to worry about that. But secondly, we are trying to deal with the issue of habitual offenders. So in other words, those people who keep on breaking the law on the roads, that's where it's going to hit you hard, because basically are allocated points, about 15 points. So each time you commit a traffic offense, it eats away from your points to a point where once you get to your 15 and you pass, you get to 16. That's when your license is suspended for 3 months.
And I'm no longer allowed to drive in that 3 months. In that 3 months, Collen, forgive me, I'm not speaking like a serial offender here, but I think these are the many questions that South Africans will be asking. So if I get to 16, my license will be suspended for 3 months. Obviously, I cannot drive. How do we resolve, how do you then resolve within that 3 months for someone to get their license back?
Obviously, the 3 months is the period where you won't be able to be driving. In other words, it's also a rehabilitation stage, and then you're going to have to get back into the system after the 3 months. But if you commit another offense, because you see, even the offenses, they carry different merit system, what you call the merit points. So in other words, you may find that there's an offense which carries more weight than the other. And so you may get to actually a point where you simply are stuck. Your license is taken away just because you keep on doing the same issue. So the point I'm trying to make is that the ARTO system, it is not there to punish, for instance, professional drivers. It is there to promote people from being able to behave correctly on the road. It is not there, honestly, to do what it previously was being done, to arrest people. So it's basically to promote, once you know the consequences of to driving and committing these offenses, and then you know that you may lose your license, to an extent, it's going to make you think twice before you, for instance, speed, when you can see the sign that says you can't drive over 120 kilometers an hour. So we quite believe, I mean, it has worked in Australia. We've tried it in Tshwane and Johannesburg. It is working, and there's obviously incentives. Once you've committed those offenses, you do get 50% discounts. So it is only then when you don't pay, it gets to a point where we then implement what you call enforcement order. So in other words, when you go to renew your license or to renew your disc, you have a problem. You're not going to be able to do so.
So they can prevent you, sorry, Collen, so they can prevent you from renewing your license based on outstanding fines.
That's a point I'm making. If you're not paying, and it gets to a point where we call what we call an enforcement order, which replaces a warrant of arrest. So once you are on an enforcement order level, you therefore cannot renew your license. You cannot renew your license disc as well.
Let's move to other issues, of course, of importance as well. There have been some delays in receiving of driver's license cards. How far is that process now, Collen, to try and intervene in it? What does the situation look like right now?
We are out of the woods to a very large point. I mean, the issue is that at some point from the 5th of February up to the 8th of May, our machine wasn't working. We've only got one machine in the country, but we are able to fix it on the 8th of May. So we were sitting with the backlog of about 733,000 cards that were not printed. But today, I'm glad to say that we've been able to print over 1.3 million license cards. And I think on the 11th of October, we're already sitting at a backlog of about 200,000, thereabouts. So basically what it means is that when you go today and apply for your license card, there's not going to be the delay that was experienced by people who applied between February and May. So you will be able to get your license on time. So we're out of the woods. So by end of December, the backlog would be gone.
Yeah, I would have felt very inconvenienced, though, Collen, if I was one of those individuals having to wait for my driver's license card. Why do we only have one machine? One machine that prints these driver's license cards for the whole country?
Yeah, just before I answer that, I do want to say that there's been a dispensation for people who applied during those times when the machine was down. And that dispensation says that your license, if you applied at that time and your license is not back, your card is not back yet, you've got another 3 months, which extends the validity of your license. After your validity of your license expires, then you can take a temporal license, a driver's license. So the temporal driver's license is obviously valid for about 6 months. So obviously within 6 months, you would have gotten your driver's license at that time, your card. So there's that dispensation for those people who didn't get their license at the time. And of course, when it comes to the issue of why we're having one machine, obviously at that time we were not there, but it was also issues of safety. But you must also understand that this particular machine we're talking about, it has printed over 60 million licenses.
Yeah.
So it only started giving us problems in 2022. And that is when we went to cabinet to say we do need to have new machines, we do need to have new smart cards, license cards. So that process to get the new machine started in 2022. So we went to tender on in November 2022.
Yeah.
We could not get a suitable service provider. And then we went again on tender, I think around April 2023. So which is what has brought us where we are. Where we are now is that we had already appointed, through DLCA, we had appointed a service provider. Unfortunately, the Auditor General and some of the issues that were raised in the public domain, which were taken to the Auditor General, they found that there were irregularities in terms of the awarding of the tender. But mainly it was more on the issues of following the supply chain management prescripts, as well as the PFMA. So we had to then put that on hold and probably we had to go to court, which is where we are now, to say if the Auditor General has found that there's issues, we obviously cannot continue, because the PFMA does say that if you continue with a tender, knowing fully well that there is an issue with it in terms of irregularities, you would have committed a financial misconduct. So we've had to go to court to say we want to have a declaratory order by the court to say, can we proceed with this particular contract or not? And we are, of course, asking for the cancellation of it so that we can start the process afresh. So it is mainly to try and replace this one machine. But at the moment, it is working. So that process, it's in court. We're waiting for a date from the court so that we can be able to proceed, so that we know what is the final decision on it.
Mr. Msibi, I wish we had more time. I would have loved to speak to... In fact, I'm just told we have a caller that's on the line at the moment that would want to engage with you. It's a caller from Gauteng. A very good morning to you. Thank you very much for calling in. What is your name and what is your question?
Okay, I'm Ditsa from Gauteng. My question is that the ARTO 50% benefit, I need to understand that, like, within that time, when the offense happened, and then after 3 months, it will not appear on the system yet. Then you find out that we will not be getting that 50% benefit. So they record our ticket late. When it appears, it's more than 3 months, so it's already accumulating. And it's going back to like 100%, something like that. So the recording of fine is getting delayed. That's my concern. If they can improve on that, we'll appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ditseho from Gauteng, for calling in. Perhaps, Mr. Msibi, I'm not sure if you could hear that. Ditseho concerned about the 50% benefit. Perhaps you could expand on that?
Look, the 30%, 50% discount, it only applies, because remember there's 2 stages. There's when the infringement is issued at the municipal level, and then within 30 days, then you are eligible for the 50%. Once it moves to RTIA, which is another stage now, that's when it becomes a problem. But if there's been delays, from what I'm hearing, if there's been delays in terms of you getting your fine, I think you can make representations with the RTIA for that to be relooked into. And you must remember there's also a tribunal which has been established, where you can even raise your issues with the tribunal to revisit your fines. So, but if you do feel that the infringement arrived to you late and you've basically past the 32 days, you can make representations with the RTIA to reconsider. Of course, paperwork will show that indeed there was a delay in that regard.
Just 2 issues that I also want to raise, Mr. Msibi, is that these notices sometimes land up in your post box months after the infringement itself had taken place. In a post box where you've possibly even moved from, you don't get the notification on your phone. And that's just one of the issues, that some people have raised.
Yeah, indeed. Hence, I'm saying that it's important that if you feel aggrieved by the late arrival of the infringement to you, make representations with the RTIA. They would quite consider that. But I've seen that they also send SMSs to people so that they notify you that you've got an issue. And I think you should take that up with them before it even arrives in terms of the post office, so that you are able to attend to it as soon as possible. And I think when they send you an SMS, that could be your proof that actually this infringement came quite early, and you were unable to deliver the notice on time, and that would be your representation. I think they are able to consider and try and assist you in terms of having to gain that 50% again.
There's also an issue. Let's say, for example, I sell my car, yet you find that the infringement notices are still coming to me months and months and months later. There seems to be some delay in the system capturing who the car belongs to, where the infringement notice should be going to. That has always been some concerns also raised by community members. Maybe if you could touch on that as well.
When you sell your car to someone, there is a form that you can actually fill. It is there. In fact, it is a requirement. When you sell a car, you need to fill in that form that shows that this car does not belong to you anymore. So that whatever happens, if there's any traffic infringements that happens with that specific car, they already know on the system that you've already sold this car to somebody else, and therefore they will redirect those to that particular individual. So there's a specific form. I think what I would suggest is that once you've sold your car and you want to change ownership, you must fill in that specific form, because there are people who would normally take the registration papers of the vehicle, they sit with them, they don't go and change ownership. But you can go without even those papers and go to the traffic department and say, and fill in that specific form. I just don't remember the number of the form. And you can fill in that form to say, by the way, I've sold this car to so-and-so, and here's the addresses. And then you give them that specific form. They would capture it on the system, so that whatever happened, even if it's 2 years later and the person hasn't changed the ownership of the vehicle, then they know that that car no longer belongs to you, it belongs to that individual. So you should inquire when you go to the, when you sell a car, do yourself a favor, go to the traffic department, do that specific form that shows that the car is now no longer in your name, is in somebody else's name. Even if that person doesn't register it in their name, it is none of your business. You would have told us that the car has already been sold to somebody else.
Speaking to one of my colleagues, one of the other issues, I don't only want to speak about issues, but there are, of course, areas where you've made great progress, and you've touched on some of those as the Transport Department. One of the stations that there have been constant complaints about is the Randburg Traffic Department, concerns about the system constantly being online. You have pensioners who arrive at 5 o'clock in the morning because they want to they don't want to stand in the line too long. They want to be first in line. Then you have a system that is offline and you have to come back whenever the system is back up again. It's been a long-standing problem. When do we get rid of that? When do we have a backup system that will be able to ensure that business continues if you have a glitch in the system?
Certainly, I think I would want to acknowledge that problem. I think it's been going on for a while, and that is mainly innately being down during those times. But also, I think at some point it's been about issues of the load shedding and all that, and others not having backup systems. But the provinces are encouraged to honestly try and have backup systems in terms of the power. When it comes to the innators, obviously that is the issue of RTMC. And I think over the years, it has improved. It is still happening in some cases, but there has been an improvement on it. And honestly, I don't want to spin my answer to you and say, look, it is because of this. I think there's just been a problem. And I think the issue of having more population coming into the system has just been causing so much delays because we're dealing with so many people that are coming in. And I think the RTMC, they are trying their best to improve the innators, different from what we launched. I think it was in 2007. to where we are now. I think there's been a lot of technological improvement that have happened in the system, but it still does happen. And we do apologize for that kind of inconvenience to people. But I think the RTMC, they continue to try and improve the system. It is within their purview. The department, we mainly deal with issues of policy. But I'm quite confident that at some point there would be quite a solution to that problem. And I think, unfortunately, it translates to the DLTCs in the provinces, and the provinces are the ones who are in charge of those DLTCs. It is just a huge problem, and I think one can only say, look, we do apologize for that kind of inconvenience, and we continue to try and improve it through RTMC. Also, just to deal with the issues of corruption in the DLTCs has also been our preoccupation, working together with the SIU, trying to root out some of these issues, the licenses that are issued without proper procedures being followed. It's one of the things that are preoccupying us in the DLTCs. So we really do apologize for that kind of inconvenience, and we will try our best. We continue to do so to improve the system.
But I must admit, Mr. Msibi, we've been covering for a number of years, corruption within those particular sectors, and a lot of progress has been made. There were some of the stations that were really notorious for that kind of corruption, but we see some progress that's been made there. There's a bit of confidence at some of those stations. Some of them, I don't want to mention, somewhere here near Auckland Park, which had been notorious. We've done some investigative work there, and there's been a bit of cleanup that has been done there. So I think kudos where certainly is due. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Msibi.